With any old school toy line, you need to have a team of stalwart heroes and a team of charismatic villains. If your toy line is successful, you have a good portion of the cast become fan favorites. But typically speaking, most people will only remember the main hero and the main villain. With the Kenner M.A.S.K toy line, most people are familiar with our central protagonist, the hero, Matt Tracker, and his vehicle, the Thunderhawk, but I'm pretty partial to the villain, so we're going to look at the headliner leader of the enemy team, Venom. This is the 1985 Kenner M.A.S.K Switchblade and its driver, Miles Mayhem, the leader of the vicious evil network of Mayhem. Because if Miles loves anything, it's brand synergy and probably mustache wax. Now, Miles is essentially the Cobra commander of the M.A.S.K franchise. It's not an unfounded comparison. After all, they're both the leaders of snake-themed insurgencies, and both wear blue suits. However, Miles is distinct by being a little bit more on the portly side, and he kind of has an evil Wilfred Brimley vibe. Miles has the Banana Republic, Rhythm Nation discount dictator vibe, considering he has multiple medals and tassels, all sculpted on and picked out in gold paint. He's pretty stylish in my opinion, but it makes him stand out from the goons and grunts that populate the Venom ranks. Most of the drivers for Venom have this rough and tumble biker vibe. They're all very gruff and gritty and dirty, and Miles really stands apart with his clean pressed suit. I really think that Venom should have had a much more uniform, fascistic look, but that really would be copying Cobra's homework. Miles' major accessory is the Viper mask. Well, I've said it before, they're helmets, really. It's cast in blue plastic to color coordinate with his suit, and it has a vague snake silhouette, with the visor section kind of looking like a Cobra's head and cowl when you think about the black section as negative space. It's a stretch, admittedly. I do like the overall silhouette of the Viper mask. I think it's one of the best ones in the entire M.A.S.K franchise, and it does remind me quite a bit of the Viper pilots from Battlestar Galactica. Now, seeing that Miles was a Wave 1 release, he was reissued with a modified M.A.S.K accessory due to it being, well, a choking hazard. The modified version has multiple airways sculpted in, and the black mesh section in the center has been removed, letting Miles show off his well-groomed mustache. It's very silly, and safety standards aside, it is a downgrade from the original. Some of the other modified masks are not as noticeable, but this one's just really bad. While we're here, we might as well talk about the Venom's Revenge release. Kenner quickly realized that selling figures alone would probably be a good idea, so some of the original M.A.S.K figures were repainted and sold with accessory sets. Now, Miles has made the change from a blue suit to a khaki one, and much like President Obama, he may never recover from this PR disaster. We'll have to see. Cast in a blue plastic, Miles is now equipped with the Ripper mask, and my opinion, it has a little bit of a nautical vibe, with a deep-sea diver silhouette and porthole, as well as the air hoses kind of resembling tentacles. The animalistic theme would continue with the Buzzard release in Wave 3 or 4, with Miles' mask having the silhouette of a bird skull. The Venom's Revenge accessories start off pretty strong in my opinion, with this sweet little backpack that's actually a jetpack with flip-out wings. However, it is soon overburdened by these giant laser cannons that strap to his arms. It's a very goofy little set overall, but I do like the color variations on the figure, and it's a fun addition if you just like the small-scale M.A.S.K figures. So as much as I like minifigures, the central focus of the M.A.S.K toy line is the vehicle play pattern, and the Switchblade is a very striking, pseudo-futuristic military helicopter. It has a very striking silhouette, and blue is a very bold and eye-catching color, and is complemented well by the chrome accents, as well as this cherry red canopy. The helicopter mode does have some gimmicks and playability, the first of which being that the side engines are actually toggles to rotate the helicopter blades. It's a little stilted and a little geriatric, but it's a good gimmick. You can never go wrong with spinning blades on a helicopter. The other major gimmick is the fact that he has a little bomb located on the underside of the canopy. It's a pretty easy trigger mechanism and the bomb will get lost. But illusion is the ultimate weapon, and the Switchblade converts from a helicopter to a fighter jet. The propeller blades flip down and the rear stabilizer becomes a fin, locking them into place. Being as this is one of the larger M.A.S.K vehicles, that means it has a lot of spring-loaded components. The landing gear flip down, and then when locking the rear fin into place, the sides of the helicopter will flip out into wings. The force of the wings flipping out will also toggle some small guns to come out of the fuselage. While the conversion is very fun with all of its springs and little flip-out gimmicks, I will say it's a bit lackluster, as the helicopter just looks a little too similar to the jet mode, as they both keep that central canopy section intact. Going from one aerial vehicle to another is not a massive change, but I do prefer the jet mode overall, especially the sticker details going from the front all the way to the wings being connected through the transformation. And it does form a V symbol for victory, or venom, or maybe even Team Venture.
Go Team Venture!
I don't know, they just do that.
Alright, so I'm going to start off by saying this. I think I have watched one episode of the original M.A.S.K cartoon in a hotel room once, and I'm pretty sure I fell asleep during it. So we're not going to talk about the original cartoon from DiC or the DC comic, really. Most of my knowledge from Miles Mayhem actually comes from the IDW Transformers continuity, which I'm assuming most of you don't know about. So some quick real-world background. IDW Comics used to have the license for the Hasbro properties starting in about 2005, and they released a Transformers series and an unrelated G.I. Joe series. The IDW Transformers continuity really hit its stride in the post-war era, where the Autobots and Decepticons were at an uneasy armistice. This era dealt with a lot of interpersonal drama, character growth, internal conflict, and political intrigue. Now, because this era dealt with a lot of new ideas and character growth, it was pretty popular with Transformers fans and sold decently well. Well enough that Hasbro saw the success and nudged IDW ever so carefully into making a shared expanded universe. Yeah, Hasbro has been at this for a long time now. The upcoming G.I. Joe Transformers crossover movie was not Hasbro's first attempt to get a little bit of that MCU action. Instead, they just tried to start off small and grounded and smash all of their franchises together in the IDW Comics universe. This brand and story unification effort would culminate in the IDW crossover event, Revolution. This event would retcon the previously unaffiliated G.I. Joe series into the same universe as Transformers, as well as inserting Micronauts, Ron the Space Knight, Action Man, and yes, M.A.S.K into the same storyline. In Revolution number 0, we are introduced to the namesake and founder of the G.I. Joe team, the eponymous Joe Colton. Joe is ruminating and reminiscing on his life, his past adventures, and recent global events, and the only man that can relate to him is the one that was there since the beginning, Miles Mannheim, or Mayhem as he was known back in the war. In the IDW Comics continuity, the G.I. Joe Adventure Team was a group of specialists that protected the world, which is to say the United States, from extraterrestrial, paranormal, and supernatural threats. The team consisted of the eponymous Joe, the Atomic Man, the Bullet Man, Stalker, and Mayhem. All of these characters are based on actual figures from the Adventure Team era, with two exceptions. Stalker originally debuted in the 1982 G.I. Joe A Real American Hero toy line. IDW retconned him into being the generic African-American adventurer. And Miles Mayhem was originally from M.A.S.K, a rival toy line, and he was retconned into being the generic Ginger Sea adventurer. Alright, so what I'm about to say is pure conjecture, speculation, and should be taken with a massive grain of salt, but I can't help but feel like Miles Mayhem being a portly, ginger-haired Navy sailor who has a grudge against aliens and wants to take over the world might be based off of someone real, someone for legal reasons we're going to call Grub Hubbard. So, by the modern age of the IDW Comics continuity, the Transformers Galactic Civil War has spilled over to Earth, and Megatron's occupation of the planet has left it absolutely devastated. Now, Megatron and the Decepticon forces are defeated by Prime and the Autobots, leaving just a few stragglers left on Earth, while the majority of them vacate the planet, leaving behind a massive mess. Now, years later, the Transformers have returned to Earth, with the Cybertronian warlord Galvatron looking to reignite the flames of civil war and begin his conquest of the galaxy. The planet nearly falls into Galvatron's machinations, however the fate of the planet is decided when Optimus Prime kills the warlord and presents his head to the United States President. deciding then and there to annex Earth into the Cybertronian Council of Worlds. Earth is now a colony of the Cybertronian Empire, and this is where we rejoin Miles Mayhem and Joe Colton as they ruminate on the Transformers' occupation of their home. The United States government and the Earth Defense Command have begun activating their contingency plans for alien occupation, and that includes Miles Mayhem's Project Spectrum. Miles has been working closely with the United States Department of Defense and DARPA to foster this program of stealth vehicles that can convert into military vehicles, like some sort of mobile armored strike task force, or maybe even a mobile armored strike command with a K, because Miles is a real gamer and is playing too much Mortal Kombat. While Miles oversaw the project, it was truly headed by Dr. Cornelius Tracker, who used Cybertronian technology to develop these vehicles. Technology kindly donated by Blitzwing. Oh, did I say donated? I meant taken. You see, Blitzwing was part of Galvatron's insurgency on Earth, and upon his death, Blitzwing was taken in by the United States government. And from there, he was cracked open like a tin can and opened up stem to stern like the DoD was headed by Pinhead. So Project Spectrum is given the green light to begin its counterattack against the Cybertronians, but uh-oh, Dr. Cornelius Tracker has mysteriously died. Good thing his buddy Miles Mayhem is there to take command of the team. Miles is not leading Project Spectrum alone. With him is Matt Tracker, son of Dr. Cornelius Tracker. In the IDW Comics continuity, Matt Tracker is somewhat estranged from his family, and in an effort to give him some form of guidance, his parents called upon the old family friend, Miles Mayhem. This adds a different dynamic to their relationship. If I remember correctly, in the Kenner toy line and Packin' Comics, Miles Mayhem killed Matt Tracker's brother. They were business partners or scientists working on the M.A.S.K helmets and vehicles. They didn't have a very deep relationship. Whereas in this, Miles Mayhem takes on the role of Matt Tracker's guardian, parental figure, and mentor, meaning that Miles' eventual heel turn has a deeper resonance. Overall, I think this is a very good introduction to Miles Mayhem. He's clearly the antagonist, but he has an understandable motivation. The issue comes in the fact that the IDW Revolution event had to juggle so many franchises and thus so many villains, so they started to kind of fall by the wayside the further you went on. By the midway point of the IDW Revolution event, we learned that Miles Mayhem's machinations extend beyond the Cybertronians, as he wants to use the fracas and power vacuum to create a new world order on Earth, and to do so he has sold out parts of Earth to the Micronaut Imperium led by Baron Karza, as well as the dire wraiths of Rom the Space Knight. Upon learning this, Matt Tracker attempts to undermine Miles Mayhem, but he quickly learns that he is fighting a very lonely battle, as a majority of the Spectrum writers are loyal to Mayhem. So you gotta give him this. Miles knows how to stack the deck in his favor, but he didn't stack it well enough. After all, these are all villains we're dealing with, and they all want their own victory. Baron Karza betrays Miles and the Dire Wraiths. So Miles Mayhem launches a suicidal counterattack against Baron Karza, because if he can't rule the world, then no one can. This counterattack is successful, and Mayhem, along with the majority of the Spectrum operatives, are presumed dead or missing. However, the solace of this heroic sacrifice doesn't last long, as Matt Tracker finds a note from Mayhem stashed away in the Thunderhawk. A note that ends with, "Illusion is the ultimate weapon." Miles has faked his death and is now rebuilding a shadow cabal with the Spectrum Riders, a cabal that will be called Venom. And in my opinion, that's pretty much where Miles Mayhem stops being interesting. He had a very compelling character arc and narrative in the beginning of IDW Revolution, but by the end of it he just becomes Villain of the Week.
Don't you know a feint when you see one? Kidnapping the former First Lady was all but a distraction for my real target.
Apollo? The Apollo 7, scheduled to splash down today!
Wally's on that mission!
The problem truly is there are just so many franchises and characters for them to juggle. By the end of the IDW Comics run in the Unicron miniseries, there are so many antagonistic human factions, not even counting the Cybertronian ones. By the end of it, there's 3 Cobra Commanders running around. Baroness is a Cobra Commander, Tomax and/or Zaymot is Cobra Commander, and then there's that shitty Cobra Commander Crake that nobody likes. If I was writing this comic series that ended years ago, I personally would have had some sort of inter-villain war of supremacy tucked away in the background of the M.A.S.K or G.I. Joe comics. You know, at least one villain out there uniting the armies of the night. So as much as I like the original Kenner M.A.S.K toy, the character of Miles Mayhem is somewhat redundant. He doesn't stand out as much as he should in the pantheon of toy villains. And considering that Hasbro wants to have him as part of their interconnected universe, he is definitely overshadowed by others like Cobra Commander and Megatron. However, given the right context, I do think Miles has the ability to be distinct compared to those villains. IDW was on the right track by making him essentially an Earth supremacist. And I think if you want to incorporate Miles Mayhem and Venom into any crossover continuity, that's the way to do it. Otherwise, they really are going to look like a knockoff of Cobra, and you're going to ask why there's so many dudes in blue suits and helmets running around.